Joining me now for more is Bradley Bowman. He's the Senior Director of the Center on Military and Political Power at the nonpartisan research institute called the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Bradley, I'm so grateful for you to take the time to share your insight and experience with our viewers. For folks that are tuning in, you are a former U.S. Army Black Hawk pilot, which was the helicopter that was involved in that collision near Reagan Airport. You also served in the 12th Aviation Battalion for 2 years and commanded Charlie Company, and you have an incredible wealth of knowledge and experience. We've all seen that footage, and it appears that the helicopter headed straight for the commercial jet. It's so hard for an average person to understand how this could have happened. So I would love for you quickly, Bradley, to bring us inside the Black Hawk, into that pilot seat. What are they seeing? What are they monitoring? What are they looking for?
Thank you for the opportunity to join you, and just the heart goes out to the families of those lost and their loved ones. And it might be helpful to you and your viewers just to quickly understand that there's a low-level helicopter system throughout the national capital region that goes above a lot of the freeways and over the Potomac, and it's been there for decades. And over those decades, it's safely facilitated the separation of helicopters and planes. But obviously this week, that system failed, and we have to understand what went wrong. But at each place on that system of routes, you have to be at a particular location and a particular altitude. You have to be communicating with air traffic control, and you have to follow directions carefully. And that's what's made it work for all this time. But on Wednesday night, it didn't. One of the key things to make this all work is what a helicopter pilot would call a scan, and a fixed-wing pilot. You're scanning around looking for other aircraft to see and avoid, and you're looking inside your cockpit at your instruments to include that everything is going okay, including your altitude. And when I flew through that exact route, and I was on those routes on the night of September 11, 2001, if I saw that I was 10, 15, 20 feet too high, and you were supposed to be at 200 feet right there at Reagan, then I would quickly correct it, or I'd ask my co-pilot to correct it. So it's a system that's worked, but it also requires precision and attention to detail.
You know, Bradley, we just heard all of the black boxes from the plane and the helicopter. They've been recovered according to the NTSB. Now the process continues in the investigation of getting the information from those black boxes. But I want to underscore this with your assistance, please. How incredibly dangerous and unhelpful is it for people to speculate about how this accident and collision happened and to blame things without actually having all of the data and the information before you make those assessments?
I got to tell you, I really appreciate that question, because both in the tragedy in Philadelphia and the one at Reagan, there's been a lot of initial conjecture, and much of it's been wrong. And it's just a reminder of something we know in the military, and perhaps folks in your line of work know as well, that the first reports are often wrong. The NTSB is full of individuals that are professionals, and they're the best in the world. Let's give them the time and space they need to do their investigation. We can have discussions about what may have happened, but let's respect the process and respect the investigations and not jump to premature conclusions. That's my view.
Bradley, one of the things that has been discussed is air traffic control. And again, without speculating as to the cause of that D.C. collision, it is a fact, though, that there are severe shortages in terms of staffing of air traffic controllers. How important is the role of the air traffic controller in the situation where that person is, to be able to manage all of the traffic that is going on, regardless of what altitude the helicopter is supposed to be, the number of the commercial jetliners that are coming in? How critical is the role of an air traffic controller?
It's fundamental and decisive. You don't want a single point of failure, right? You don't want to rely on one pilot to do everything perfectly, because we're all human beings. We make mistakes. And so the air traffic controllers' role is fundamental, and that's why we have the safest air system in the world, because of the amazing work of these professionals. We've got to make sure we have enough, that they're fully trained and they have the support that they need. And we also got to make sure that our pilots have the funding, training, and support they need. And that's what makes all this work. And we got to understand what went wrong on Wednesday night.
Very quickly, before I let you go, Bradley, the FAA documented more than 1,700 runway incursions just last year. Reagan is known for having a few close calls, and it's because of the sheer amount of traffic, especially with military helicopters. Do you have any recommendations on what our new Secretary of Transportation needs to be focusing on to improve aviation safety?
Yeah, it's one of the busiest spots, aviation spots in the country. It's in a tight location. You got the Pentagon nearby, you got Capitol Hill, the White House, and you have a lot of powerful and influential people that want the convenience of being able to fly into Reagan. You know, we may need to look at the number of flights coming into Reagan. We may need to reassess the vertical and horizontal separation required between these helicopters and the planes, and we might need to relook at some of these routes. But let me hasten to add, there's a very important national security role for this unit that goes far beyond flying people to meetings and briefings, including continuation of government on our nation's worst day. So I just want to flag that there's more than convenience here at stake. There's a strong national security role for this battalion and for those low-level helicopter routes, and we need to keep that in mind as we look at the necessary reforms after this investigation is complete.
And that's the point, right? The investigation has to be complete before we know what happened. I read very quickly, Bradley, the following quote: that airspace is unforgiving and there is little room for mistakes. So it sounds like it's important for us to have all the information. Bradley Bowman, thank you so much again for sharing your insight and your experience. I appreciate you.
Thank you.